All right. Welcome everybody to another week of Collab Lab. And yeah, so let's get started with demos. Who wants to go first? All right, Mari. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. Good morning, good afternoon. Let's see here. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So for this week, me and Satoshi were tasked with adding a welcoming prompt to the list page so that if a user did try to see their list and they didn't have any items in it, they would say, hey, go ahead and add an item to that list. Otherwise, the list page would show all the items in that given token list. So first, let me just go ahead and type in like a little sample list here. It takes a minute for it to load the data from the Firestore, but I do have a couple items there in that list. I've got 4 things there. The filter list function does work here. And we did have an issue before where when we were creating our view of showing all the items in the list, that the search item state was outside of this component. So for every time that you typed in a letter, it would refresh the page. So to fix that, Satoshi was great in debugging that issue, move that filter list state back into the component where the list items do appear, and it did fix that bug. But otherwise, if let's say I have an empty list, let me go ahead and empty out my token here. All right, so if I empty out my token and I refresh the page, I'm gonna go ahead and make a new list. Sorry, my computer's a little slow.
Don't worry.
So if I go ahead and create a new list, then the user is greeted with a little message saying, hey, your shopping list is empty. And they have a little button to go ahead and add an item to their list. And when they click that item, it sends them to the add item list page, or they can go ahead and add an item. So just for sample, I'm just gonna type in apple, add it to the list. And if you go back to our list, then it shows all the items in that list. And that was our issue for this week.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, do you have any questions about that? No? All right. It's amazing.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Can you share your screen, Miss Mari?
Oh, yeah, no, sorry about that. Bad timing.
Sorry. Actually, I think she kind of showed like when we loaded the existing shopping list, actually we see the empty welcoming prompts first, and then after go to the existing shopping list. Can you show that, Ismari?
Oh, the empty view?
Just like you can type my test list and then reload.
Okay. Oh, in here. Oh, here, let me just, sorry, I'll just refresh it here.
Yeah, everyone saw like you see at first my shopping list is empty and then go to the shopping list We actually try to like avoid showing that message with like is loading, using the is loading status at first, but it didn't work out as we expected. I was checking the code before this meeting. I think if we modify the app.jsx file, right now they render first with render twice. Beginning they render with shopping list with the object with ID only, and then they send again with the shopping list. That's why we see first empty list and then rendered this page. So if someone can fix this, it would be better for user experience, I think. How do you think?
Did you try adding a skeleton when you use that is loading? Like maybe instead of showing, if it's taking a few seconds, instead of showing that page, it would just show the skeleton.
The skeleton?
Well, a skeleton is like, and it might be something that we can add later on, but it's something where you account for delays. And so if we have delays in different systems, then the user kind of sees like, maybe you've seen it on LinkedIn. When you refresh on LinkedIn, it shows like what it's going to load, but it doesn't show text.
Yeah, at first we tried to do that, like using is loading, but the problem is when it shows all time when we go to this page that is loading and then shows the shopping list. That's why we decide not to use is loading. And I think we can fix this if we modify the app.jsx file, because right now it's rendered twice. It's not necessary.
I think that makes
Satoshi,
sense.
can you point out where it's being rendered twice? I'm losing you on that part.
Like they at first they get the shopping list with one object, like as a with ID empty object. That's the beginning. That's why we see the shopping list is empty and go to the add list page, and then right after they render again with the retrieved shopping list items. That's why we see 2 pages when we loaded the existing shopping list.
Where in the code is that?
The
I believe it's
oh,
on the
Right.
line where we're actually conditionally rendering like the different components, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you
So on the
show us
first,
the code?
yeah, here's so okay, so so I think it comes down to this line right here. So I think what Satoshi is saying that like on the first render, when it's just grabbing the list, it's just kind of pointing out to the empty object that's associated to that list. So before the Firestore actually fills in the data that's actually associated to that token, once it meets the condition where the length is greater than 1, then the user is sent to the view where you can see all the items of the list at that point.
I think this is a bit diverge from and goes a bit out of scope from demos. So I just opened a thread in Slack so we can continue talking about this there, and let's move to the next thing. If you're okay with that, we have other things to cover today. So
yeah,
sounds good.
sorry, taking time.
That's fine. That's fine. Thanks for raising the issue, Satoshi.
Okay, I'll demo what Christina and I worked on this week. Okay. So here I have a list loaded up on our UI on the right, and then I'm showing the same collection in our Firestore on the left. So this week we were tasked with adding the checkboxes for being able to mark an item as purchased and then sending that data to the Firestore to make sure our UI and our data were both in sync. So we added all the little checkboxes that you can now see in our list view here. And if I check one of those off, like I just did, you could see on the left side, my total purchases for oranges just went up to 2. It had started at 1 before, and then date last purchase was just updated to our timestamp right now. And then back in our app, our state that's also storing that that Firebase data, it was also updated to the same. So total purchases is 2, and the timestamp was updated as well. So I could go to another thing, another item. I find it on the left. I'll just run through that again so you can see everything. So we're starting out with 1 purchase for oat milk. If I mark it off, we just went to 2, and oat milk state was updated as well here. So after all the discussion that we had last week, which thanks for everyone's input, we did remove the unchecking functionality. So right now a user couldn't uncheck something. The only way that an item will be unchecked will be after that 24 hours has passed from the last purchase timestamp. It will automatically be unchecked, and at that point a user could recheck it again. So we can kind of force that so we can see that happen. In the Firestore, if I update our timestamp to be a day ago, you can see it was just unchecked on the right here. So we kept our total purchases count, and that should be the same in our state here as well. Yep. Cool. So most of our work was in the list item component for getting these checkboxes and all the functionality there. And then we did update that Firestore, I think it was update item function. Yeah. Any questions or anything? Cool.
Thank you for sharing. All right, great demos. Thank you very much. Great work this week. Nicely done. Yeah, you asked really good questions too, so good work overall. Yeah. All righty. Yeah.
I guess I'm next. Yeah, let's chat about let's do a retro here. I'm gonna share my screen if it lets me. This is fun. I'm getting that Mac. Need to open system settings. Give me a sec. I might drop and then come back. I apparently have never used Zoom with this computer. I'm gonna quit and reopen real quick. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, I was going to say I can try to.
Had stopped.
Oh, cool. Thanks for whoever noticed and changed that. All right, I'm going to see if I can find the chat. Here we go. I'm going to link to this board here. It's going to be kind of similar to how we did the retro last time. I'll give you all about 5 minutes if you want to add a few items here. We've got appreciation, just like shout outs to individuals or groups, what you think went well between the last retro and now, some things that could be improved, and then if we have any specific action items. And I believe Yufa noticed last time that if you type in here, like it doesn't say who wrote the thing. So if you could do something like, this was great, and then just do like, make sure you put your name in there, just so we know who wrote what. That would be super helpful. So I'm going to give you all about 5 minutes to add a few things, and yeah, then we'll chat about it. And feel free to go off camera if you want to. Not that you need my permission to do that, but if you want to, feel free to. Maybe it's Yufa. Awesome, thank you. Trying to not forget. So let's start with appreciations. We can skip mine. So let's just go down the line. And if there's anything that you want to kind of add to what you wrote down, feel free to say it. So let's start with Christina.
Yeah, so I just really appreciated the feedback we got from the mentors. It's been really great, but since we're looking at the last 2 weeks, I'll mention specifically for the last 2 weeks, we got some really good feedback on things that we could improve, not just things that were possibly not right in the app, but actual like improvements that could make our code base better and more readable and improve the functionality. So I really appreciated that. Thank you.
Awesome. Ismari, did you want to go through yours?
Yeah. I was going to say thank you to Satoshi for quickly debugging that re-render issue that we had on our form and list component. And also aside, appreciation for Tila for pointing out that bug that we had on the component as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it takes two parts, someone to recognize there's a problem and then someone to dig in. Both are pretty important, I think. Christina.
Mine follows up on that one. When I had tested it, I had tested like entering like one letter and I was like, oh, cool, the filter's working. And so the fact that she went beyond that and actually tested like full strings, full words, and caught the bug that way, it was a reminder to me that I need to, pick up the pace on that a little bit or be more detailed. So thank you, Tila, for that.
Awesome. Looks like Yufa's next.
Yeah, that goes to the theme we're talking about here. So it's just being awesome to see how thoroughly everyone testing all the features, like really trying out all the edge cases, and how supportive everyone in Slack channels. Whenever we have a question there, people just jump in.
Yeah, I agree. Christina, looks like yours is next.
Sorry, apparently I'm I got a lot to say. I really appreciated how prepared my partners were. It's been really great. It's helped, our peer programming sessions go a lot more smoothly. And so I appreciated the time that you guys took to look over the code ahead of time. It's kind.
Cool. And then we have one from Alejandro.
All right. Yeah. So thanks, Anita and Jufa, for helping me out when I was away. I was away 2 weeks ago, I believe. So, and I missed the retro. So thank you for that.
All right. And then we got one from Yufa.
Just wanted to shout out this week, Tila and Christina has pretty meaty issue, and both of you handled really well. Awesome work.
All right. And then we got the next one from Satoshi.
Oh yeah. I put some more effort to code reviewing this time, and I realized how much time I need to spend on this. So I really appreciate everyone takes their time to improve our codes as a reviewer. Thanks.
And then we got the next one from Yufa.
Yeah, just shout out to everyone. Like I really had fun this week reviewing all the PRs. Nice work.
Very cool. And then the last appreciations from Tila.
Yeah, this is really just for everyone. Really appreciate everyone's great communication on Slack this week through all our questions and thoughts and just sharing different stuff there.
Awesome. So I guess in the same vein here, with what went well, I'm seeing some overlapping from reading, but yeah, let's go through it anyway. Tila again, go ahead.
Yeah, so we've already kind of said this, but I think we had really great questions and discussions kind of all around on both sides the past couple weeks, which is awesome. It's like everyone's gotten comfortable with each other, and yeah, I feel like we're at a good spot.
Yeah, totally. Satoshi, looks like your card's next.
Yeah, it's kind of same discussing about a feature, the unchecking function, if we need or not. Like we discuss a lot, and yeah, I think we are very comfortable to give our opinions. So this is good.
Yeah, totally. And the next one was from me. Yeah, I just said kind of along the same vein that everyone's been really great about like asking for help, and not necessarily just asking for help, like just asking for opinions and preferences. Just because everyone's going to have to be working on maintaining this thing together and adding new features. So good job, everyone. Alejandro?
Sure. So I have two. So the first one is that you're a pleasure to work with. That applies, I guess, for everything. Like, you're really friendly in Slack, really motivated. You're in time for calls. Like, all that matters. You show up for office hours also. Yeah, you're really good. So I think that's been really fun. So thank you. That's kind of a appreciation / what went well. So yeah. And the next one is mine also. So I want to give a shout out to everyone, because your QA process is really good. Like, you pull the branch, you find edge cases, and most important, I think, is that you like raise your concerns in a really good way, really positive. And yeah, so thank you for that. That is really good for the project and for the team. So yep, keep doing that.
Yeah, totally. Looks like Christina is next.
Yeah, I think that pair programming has gone a bit more smoothly in the last couple of weeks, and part of it was on my own part, trying to find things that worked. But it was really fun also finding what works for everyone else, and I think it's improved.
Cool. And then we have Ismari.
Yeah, kind of like piggybacking off of what everyone's kind of said already, and just really great, just like feeling good, like sharing your opinion on the Slack channel. If I have a question, or if anybody does have a question about like an issue that they had for the week, or a suggestion that maybe the group can kind of contribute to, it just feels like really nice to like have an open dialogue and not feel some type of way about it. So I just appreciate everyone's friendliness when it comes to open dialogue.
Right. And then Tila.
Yeah, this week Christina and I paired over tuple again, and it went very smoothly, which I love that little tool. And we even used, there's a feature in there called double cursor, where we could each be controlling a separate mouse at the same time. So like, she could be controlling the code and I could be writing in the PR, for example, at the same time on the same screen. Super cool, and it worked really smooth.
Awesome. And then last one here in this column is from Yufa.
Just a shout out. I'm glad like the interview went well, Ismari.
Thank you. I'll hopefully get some good news tomorrow and let you guys know.
Yeah, I hope so. Definitely. All right. So I guess switch gears a little bit, just about in good faith here on, because you can always improve on things. I think things are pretty great, but you can always be better. So that's one thing that I appreciate about this group, is that we can be honest with each other in a respectful way. So that's awesome. So let's do the what could be improved. Christina.
So, I mean, I think as a whole, the team, everything is going really well. But I did catch myself a couple times this week getting a little bit out of scope. And we were able to talk about those things in the open office hours. So it was a good reminder to stick to the criteria in a very specific way. So that's on my part. That could be improved on my part.
Yeah, totally. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
I feel everyone struggled with this at some point. So don't feel like it's just you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was mentioned at the open office hours, just because I wasn't there, but I believe like the last week, there's this like, I want the app to look professional and welcoming, which is, mostly styling, but I think we could add in there, add in final features potentially if we decide on that as a group. Because there's always stuff you want to add to it. I'm victim to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring everything you've learned like to that I think last 2 weeks. Maybe
Oh,
last
even
week,
better.
last 2 weeks, right? Yeah. So bring what we've learned about scope. It'll be challenging. It'll be
Yeah.
challenging, but you got this.
Just fit everything that you've wanted to do for the past 8 weeks into the last week. It'll be done. Yeah, I think someone might have mentioned they wanted to do testing as well. Like that might be a good time to do that too, depending on what you and your partner decide to do that week. But just looking ahead, not this week, but cool. So yeah, let's go to some action items here. Christina, I think you had the first one here.
Yeah, so we had identified one of the things that was out of scope was I kind of thought that it wasn't super intuitive to the user. We don't know what soon means, kind of soon and not so soon. So we were discussing ways that we could possibly make that clear to the user and adding it, like you said, to the end of their project so it would be like a to-do. So that was one.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Does it make sense that I post this in Slack afterwards, or I'm trying to think of a good way to kind of keep this so we don't forget what our action items are? Okay, yeah, I'll post these in Slack afterwards. I think we can assign too.
Yeah, or we can utilize the project board.
Yeah, we actually added this one in particular to the project board already.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
nice.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Even
like a
better.
draft to do for that last week or two.
Cool. Yeah,
Nice.
let's keep that in there. That's a good idea. Right. And then Tila, you had the last one here.
Yeah, so last up, just kind of finish our discussion that we were having in Slack around saving the collection immediately to Firestore using that one empty doc, which is the way that it's currently written. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah, it feels kind of related to the thread that Alejandro posted as well. So yeah, I don't know if we want to just keep that in the same thread or if we want to go after both issues separately. Yeah, because I think if we address this, it'll probably address the rendering issue. My limited front end recent experience, but yeah, that's a good point. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I think overall we've done really great. And I think just from personal observations, it seems like people are getting a lot more comfortable with each other, and it's encouraging, a lot more productive work to happen. It's kind of one of the big themes that I've been noticing. So awesome. Does anyone else have anything to add, just like overall, or okay to move on to the next thing? All right, yeah, let's move on to the next thing. This will be here in our board if you need to reference it later. But let's move on to issues. And this week I came prepared because I always forget where the pairs are. So this week is week 5, I think. Yeah, week 5. So week 5, we've got the pairs of Tila and Ismari, and then Christina and Satoshi. So I'll go over the 2 issues, and then we can decide who wants to take which issue. So the first issue for this week is issue 9. So users, I think this was something that was brought up last week, kind of a little more around making sure the data that we're adding to the list is a little more better sanitized. So in this case, users shouldn't be able to add an empty item to the list. And you also shouldn't be able to add the same item twice. And then if you go down to the acceptance criteria, it goes into a little more details. So empty item, but also here too, adding the same item twice includes casing. So like if you uppercase the P, that would be equated to the same as just like lowercase apples. And then just like before, user's original input is saved to the database. So whatever the user gives us is what we save, but we also do a little bit of validation before adding. And yeah, there's definitely a few ways to approach this task. So I think that's what makes it interesting / challenging, because whoever takes this one will have some decisions to make. Any questions on this one before I move on?
I
to my
have a
next one?
question. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
the user enters that A space and then the rest of the apples, that's what we would display. Even
Oh,
though
yeah, that's a good one too. I'm not prepared for that question.
just curious.
Yeah, because that's not mentioned in the acceptance criteria. I think just making this up off the top of my head, I wonder if we want to, well, yeah, because there are some things that will have spaces in, because that's what
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what I was
like
thinking. Like there's
disqualify.
words that are compound words, and if they have the spacing versus not, I don't know.
That's a good question though. Yeah, I'd say let's just allow it to be added, because you'll have things like pepperoni, space pizza, or something like that. As long as it's not duplicated. So yeah, because otherwise then we're like going into the dictionary of like, is this a real word? And then that gets really complicated really fast, but that's a good, yeah, if everyone agrees with that, I think that might be the way we
Sounds
go.
good to me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, great question, Christina. Cool. So let's do the other one and then we'll chat assignments. So as an item, I want my estimated next purchase date to be computed at the time my purchase is recorded in the database, so the app can learn how often I buy different items. So down here, we have some more details here. So in order to advise users about when to purchase things, the app needs to be able to calculate that guess and store it in a future date. So I believe we're calling something as purchased when it's checked. So down here, we're just going to be calculating and storing a different property that we're not storing yet. So this calculate estimate, you can, just like before, import shopping list utils, which I think are already added. And then there's this calculate estimate function that you can use to determine when to magically uncheck that item because it needs to be purchased again. So there's some acceptance criteria here. So items date next purchase property is calculated using that, saved to the Firestore database. You want to make sure to save it as a date, not as a number. That's definitely bitten me many times. So I'm glad they specifically say that. And then the third one here is get days between dates function is exported and imported. You'll want to put that in the API Firebase.js file. And then this function takes two JavaScript dates. So I think the challenge here is like maybe just determining when do I use a string versus when do I use dates, or at least for my thoughts. But then there's some like Firebase specific things here. So there's like an object in Firestore called timestamps. Yeah, there's some more notes down here. Personally, I think this one might be a little more challenging. Other mentors can correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely doable. So,
I have a question on it. I'm sorry.
yeah. No,
So
you're
you
good.
mentioned check marks. So the code, but it's not specifically stated in the criteria. I was assuming that when we handled the next date of purchase, it wouldn't actually have anything to do with that 24-hour check mark. This will be overriding that.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I might need a visual on that if you don't mind. I think we have a link up here, don't we?
Yeah, so right now when the user uses a check mark, it removes itself after 24 hours. So I
yeah.
thought that the date of next purchase didn't have anything to do with the check mark, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm interpreting that wrong.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. So right now it's removing it after 24 hours. Instead of removing it after 24 hours, we're going to be a little more, lack of a better term, smart about it.
Okay.
So like if you wanted to buy it like kind of soon, it would be the kind of soon time frame. And then the other two, if that makes sense. think it's
Yeah, I
super-
was just trying to think like when that pattern starts, since it's like a recognition thing. But maybe I'm overthinking it. You know, like if we're trying to use their pattern of purchases, like does the pattern get created with the first one? I'll have to dive into it a little bit more. Sorry.
Yeah, one thing we might need to do, because you will have like old items added to old lists that don't have this logic, and it won't be consistent. So I'll leave this up to you all, but you might want to just purge the database from old objects before working on this, or make sure you're working on like a new list so it has that logic, because that can get confusing. But yeah, database migrations. We won't do that here. Cool. Okay, so yeah, I've got the groups. Sorry, this Zoom thing is getting in my way. So yeah, so we got group 1, which is Tila and Ismari. Group 2's Christina and Satoshi. So who was looking to take what, or I can assign.
I'd like to work on number 9, if that's cool with Ismari. That was the first one we looked at.
I'm cool with number 9.
Cool, taken. What's your name again?
TIALA.
Oh, yeah. God, I'm so bad at spelling. Sorry.
No problem. It's a tough
And
one.
Ismaria was your partner, right? Yeah. Yeah, there you are. Cool. And then Satoshi and Christina. I'm not going to assign this to me. Sorry, computers. Mistake. Clear. Christina and then Satoshi. There we go. Okay, awesome. Cool. But yeah, as always, like if things come up, definitely feel free to ask each other questions and ask questions in Slack. And I personally might be slow to respond just because of working, but otherwise, yeah, we have good resources here. So, all right, thanks for that. I think we're ready to move on to the next portion. Which is announcing this week Yufa is going to be doing office hours and Alejandro is going to be doing code review, it looks like. When were you looking to do office hours, Yufa?
Yeah, I was looking at the calendar just now, actually. How about Tuesday, like at 4 p.m. Pacific time? Good. Cool. Cool. I'll send out the calendar invite.
Right.
I wanted to make a small comment about next week. Next week's weekly sync. I may not be able to attend next week's weekly sync. I have a trip that we had planned for about a year now, but it's only for the weekend, so I will still be doing all my work throughout the week. But I don't know if there's a way that you guys can share the recording with me ahead of time. I know they get published to YouTube, but
Yeah, it'll be recorded, and I think all the week's recordings already uploaded except last week's. So I'll do last week's and this week's, and then I make sure next week's will be on YouTube on time.
okay. I apologize ahead of time. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, no worries.
No
I
worries.
mean, it's a huge commitment every Sunday, like, so thank you for being here.
That is. Does anyone else have anything to say? I guess we're ending 15 minutes early. Otherwise. Cool. I guess see you all out there virtually because we're all in different locations. So thanks for coming this week, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye. Have a good
Have a
week.
good day.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of
Bye-bye.
Sunday.
Yes, you too.
You too.